Hey everybody, this is Captain Frugal reporting for duty, giving you my weekly comic book review. So sit back and enjoy. Alright everybody, for those of you that know the drill, I go over a bunch of comic books for the week that I chose to read. Now I didn't have time to read everything, so if I missed something you think I should have read, let me know in the comments below. Also, you may disagree with me on some of my choices. If that's the case, that's alright. Let me know below. Let's just try to keep it civil. My goal is to bring back the old schoolyard days, where we would be in discussing what hero could beat who or what comic book was good and not. And I come armed with my trusty notes, so you'll hear the paper rattle because I do it a little bit old school. I do my grading on a scale of 0 through 10, 7 being average as a 70%. So I'm using schoolyard grading. But that's not all. I also use the League of Comics Geeks to give you other people's views as well as a brief overview of the comic book as well. So let's jump right in. Well, welcome back everybody to the weekly comic book review. Boy, I'm thankful for having all you join. And once again, I already put this in the beginning, but please feel free to share your comic views in the comments. I love the back and forth discussion. I really like it to be like we walked into a comic shop and, we're just talking about comics and things like that, where we can have disagreements, whether it be nerd out fights of which person would beat who up, or other more intricate things about the comic books without hating each other and enjoying each other's company. So with that said, let's talk about Green Lantern number 22. It has 155 ratings with a 4.0 score, very positive score on League of Comics Geeks. You know what? I think it really does deserve. This Green Lantern series has been a fun ride. I gave the book a 7.8. The writer is Jeremy Adams, and artist is Zimronico. Sorry, I butchered that one. Well, anyway, we got Hector Hammond in this. Yep, Hector Hammond versus Hal Jordan. And, well, they continue to fight. While we get some more information, more about the story with Kyle Reiner, Superboy, and Odyssey as they go to reach across an outpost and find a mysterious stranger. Yeah, I think this is a pretty interesting series. If you're a Green Lantern fan, I don't see why you wouldn't be getting it. Yeah. A matter of fact, there's even a panel about government waste and taxes. I think it's page 6. You know what? I think, and that's one of those things where I'm not 100% against politics in comic books. Some people are, some aren't. Here's the way I view it. I'm fine with politics in comic books if it's handled in a way that it's not alienating one side or the other. And I think this is something we all could agree on, no matter if you're on the left or the right, that we don't want government waste. We want our tax dollars to be used appropriately. So I didn't have any issue with that. Decent art in this book, good dialogue and characterization as well. So the story progression was a little bit slow, but that's okay. It was what it needs to be. I really enjoyed this issue, and I think you will as well. The next book I want to talk about is Justice League Unlimited number 6. This is a crossover event with World's Finest that they're doing, and this is part 2. So you have to get World's Finest part 1. I'm not a big fan when they cross over a bunch of books, because they do that for marketing purposes to try to boost sales usually in a book, give more attention, get somebody to try a book they wouldn't read. Smart ploy, but I'm just not a fan of it as a comic book reader, because then you have to get all those, though I was getting this one anyway. So anyway, Justice League Unlimited number 6 has 365 ratings with a 3.8, mostly positive score. And you know what? I agree. I gave it a mostly positive score with a strong 7.5 as well. Yeah, I can't say I didn't enjoy it. Story is Christopher Cantwell as well as Mark Waid. Not a fan of that douchebag, but it is what it is. And Travis Moore is the artist. And this is We Are Yesterday part 2, where we get more insight on the traitorousness going on into the team, but we get more into Airwave and why he's doing it and how he was tricked. And I think we all knew, if we were reading this, that he didn't probably have anything vile and evil going into it intentions, but boy was he tricked and played for a fool in this one. Though I will say, sadly, that there's some really cliche writing in this, and this is where I have a take issue with this book, is because Mark Waid is doing a huge self-insert, but he is so ignorant of himself. It has zero self-awareness that he's actually the villain. The writer's the villain in this one. You've got Waid writing that rich people are always, always the problem. Billionaires hired Deathbolt in this book to destroy a satellite so that the government will have to pay them to build another. So in other words, for a government contract. Can you not say that's well on the nose? Because, government contracts with Elon. So he has to put that in his book. I don't care if you like that or not. But this was, once again, as I said, politics is okay when it's done more in the middle or allows you to make decisions. This was really ham-fisted and on the nose because, well, they did it so they have to pay them to build another. This is definitely TDS influencing the book. And so that I have to hit it, give it a little bit of a knock because I'm sorry, but Waid just can't see the irony of his ways. He can't see that he's actually the villain. He's the Grodd of the story, if you look at it, and what he's doing here. So Grodd's going from the future back in the past to help him create a new evil team, if you will, before all the problems within the inner workings of these bad guys and of the Legion of Doom, if you will. And so he's trying to get an earlier version of them to do his bidding and, get done what he wants to. I think I maybe given it a stretch, giving this book a 7.5. I probably, with the really ham-fisted writing, should have given it a little less. But what are your thoughts? Am I yelling at clouds here? Or did you, when you read that, you go, oh yeah, this is definitely a dig at Elon with his personal politics. It just didn't need to be there. It could have done it so many different ways, but once again, that's the problem with Waid. A lot of skills in his writing. I'm not going to bag him as his skills because I don't think that's fair. I think it's fair to be objective, but his books would be even better if he could learn to get out of his own way. With that said, though, let's check out what some other people said, and maybe it's just me. So I want to see what other people say here. So here's another one. This is a 2.5-star review. It says, not entirely sure where I stand here. There's one very sour, but also entirely up to personal taste thing here that I'm trying to be generous about. That being the one line my favorite DC villain, Len, gets in this. I don't think he would say that actually, but given the kind of plot we're working with, I'm holding out and holding judgment until the world's finest annual. As for the rest, again, it feels like just a whole issue of setup. And I'm aware that one of the problems with the comic books is the release schedule and can end up messing, which I'm editing this for language, with the reader's perception of pace. That doesn't stop my feeling that not a whole lot has been accomplished since we learned who Inferno was made up of. And that's a good point. We didn't get a lot of progression there. Gorilla God's plan is also very funny to me, sir. I get where you're coming from about the options, but also why would you think that bringing in villains with less experience against the JLA, it's now 100 heroes would ever work, with over 100 heroes would ever work out for you? I don't think it's a evil is in its prime unless you have a taste for every pun-based crimes, which, okay, I don't get that. Let's skip down. Furthermore, Airwaves sort of comes off too naive. And I have to say that's a great point. That how did he not realize that he was getting manipulated here? But, it is what it is. Now, he does say, you think that means I dislike this issue? Mostly I just tepid on it. So he didn't hate it, so keep that in mind. Not exactly terrible. We continue to be fair, though. Let's read a 5-star review. An issue is so good, it made me want to read more. Mark Waid Books. Mark is doing an incredible job with this this series. It feels exactly like episodes of the cartoon that I grew up with and loved, and so somewhat of a casual comic book reader. So as a casual comic book reader, he's really liking this and enjoying it. So that's good with a 5-star. I don't see anybody. Oh, let's go with this 2.5 here. The lack of Wonder Woman villains in the cover and issue were already a turnoff, but this issue was average. Ooh, okay. Fair enough. Here, let's go with a 3-star. Following the world's finest issue, I was kind of excited to see where this was going. Not a fan. Kind of didn't expect to like this, so shouldn't have gotten my hopes up. This was a big info dump issue that was really unenforceable to get through, and really unimpressive storytelling. Hope this title gets better. So I don't think it's really getting a lot of negativity. So that's good. Oh, well, here we go. We are only 6 issues in and Dan Moore is already out. What an absolute joke. They gave that 0 stars. Okay, so I think I give that a plethora of different answers and views. What's your views on this book? I spent a lot of time on this one, so we're going to move on to the next. The next DC book I want to talk about. By the way, DC, in my opinion, is doing a lot better than Marvel right now. And Marvel isn't helping themselves when they have their own people saying, well, we're rebooting issues a lot because we don't have any faith that people are going to read them in the first place. That's not great for any comic shop trying to sell comics, that's for sure. Well, anyway, Batman issue 159, 540 ratings with a 3.1. And this sort of surprises me because I thought Batman would be getting more sales, but people aren't buying into this Hush 2 storyline. Now, I didn't dislike it as much, people. This is one where I run counter. I actually gave this book an 8. Yeah, I enjoyed it, though I do see where some of the complaints are coming from. The writer's Jeff Loeb, penciler is Jim Lee. And we have Hush 2 when the story continues with Hush, but that's something you got to think about. It's a Hush 2 story. There's going to be a lot of similar elements here. Batman must make the hardest decision of his life, guest starring Nightwing, Batgirl, and Red Hood. I think it has phenomenal art. That's one of the reasons I probably gave the score I did. I'm a big Red Hood fan, so I like that. The cover was pretty cool. I don't dislike the story. Some people don't, and I get it, and more power to them. Though I do think it was a little bit of a step back with Jason Todd. I can understand his anger and things, but they redug into that well, which I think needs to be done. But really, did they do it right? I don't know. So let's look at some other people's views. Here's a 2.5 star review. Matt Fraction, if you can hear us, please save me. I don't get it. I don't know what the deal with it. Here's a 2-star review. It's clear that this is meant to recapture lapsed Batman fans who haven't read in a long time. New readers won't care what Hush is. And anyway, they're reading Absolute Batman. Now, I ask you people, is that true? Do you not care who Hush is? And are you reading Absolute Batman? Because here's the thing. I don't dislike the character of Hush, and I'm not reading Absolute Batman. Maybe I'm a crap Batman fan then, and I just don't know it. And then they say here, though, and current Batman readers are just going to be upset reading this. Okay, this wouldn't be quite so bad, except that Bruce and Jason are working together in Batman and Robin right now. And there is a big hit there. That's huge. They're working together in Batman and Robin right now. And then they turn around and they have this issue here against each other. And they lead to, is Jason Todd working with Hush? And you know what? I think they convinced me there. This is one of those comic book shop talks. I'm going to downgrade it down to a 7 because that is a definite misconnect in the continuity and it doesn't really make sense. So bravo to you, Pencil Man. You changed my view on this book. Yeah, knocked me down to a 7. See, this is, I think, how comic book shops should be, right? We can impact each other's thoughts. We go, wow, when I take that into account, that makes sense. Now, another point they made is we literally just had a Riddler arc at the end of Zdarsky's run. And that's a point too. We get Riddler at the end of this. And then Leslie Thompson's relationship with Bruce, his parents, was a big part of the previous arc. So that Leslie didn't know Bruce? Yeah, another issue there that continuity-wise didn't make sense. We just saw Bruce deal with it. I can't let him die, but I'm not going to. In Detective Comics. Now, I don't read the Detective Comics, so there I can understand another issue there with this series that I didn't see because I don't read Detective Comics. So here's the thing, that was really rough. I'm going to read another 2-star review here. Not good, I must say. The first issue didn't have enough going on yet for any verdict to be made, but this was really bad. Loeb had never really written a great Bruce or Batman, and he absolutely has not improved after all this time. This really does feel like 2000s, and it means this in a derogatory way, Batman story, and not the good ones. It has succeeded in feeling like a continuation of Hush, but the problem is everything that is continuing sucked in the original series. Painfully superficial writing, basically everyone being written out of character in a mystery story devoid of actual intrigue or suspense. And the more I read these comments, the more I'm starting to agree with them. Wow. I think what I was hooked in was with the artwork and the fact that it had Jason Todd and it led me to be astray. But let's try to be positive here. Wow, there is a lot of negative reviews. So here's a 5-star. I have to do something to try to balance it out. Was Bruce's tragic first night in Crime Alley and his dad's relationship with Leslie being retconned here? See, once again, a very valid point. And this is from a 5-star review. That aside, almost every page made me go, whoa, which I feel like at the end of the day, comics kind of should be about. I feel like people will have strong feelings about the confrontation with Jason, but I personally really like how well explained it was. Sue me, I like Loeb's voice for Bruce. It also leaves me hooked for what will happen next, which again, I feel like it's a mark of successful comic issue. Needless to say, the art is divine. So there we go, a lot of different views. And this week, I will say the reviews did change my mind a little bit with some additional Batman things that I didn't think about, like the retconning of the history, the mistake of continuity with Jason Todd. A lot of valid points. This was a fun day in the virtual comic shop. Next, let's talk about Superman number 25, 338 ratings with a 4.2. Very positive score, and I gave the book an 8.4. Yeah, I'm enjoying Superman right now, I tell you. Are you enjoying Superman? I'd really like to know. With that said, the writer was Joshua Williamson, artist Dan Morris. Sorry if I sound a little different. I'm a little not under weather, but allergies are kicking my butt. Well, anyway, we have the rematch of the century. We have Superman versus Lex Luthor, sort of. This is a clone kind of make of Luthor. And what's cool about this is like Luthor at the ultimate I don't give a crap evil. And I think it's nice. And then we see the new reformed version of Lex, seeing the ultimate evil version of Lex, and the problems ensue there. I am enjoying this book. Good art, good action, good dialogue, and a great story. But let's take a quick look at somebody that didn't care for it as much so we can counterbalance it a little bit. I really thought there was one issue of this run guaranteed to be good, but it'd be the issue that finally put an end to the terrible Lex Luthor redemption arc and let him be himself again. But I underestimated just how garbage Williamson is at telling a compelling story. Underestimated his sheer skill at being incompetent, and for that, I feel that I owe him an apology. Wow. This was a really harsh negative. I don't agree with that at all. Not one bit. Let's try to find one middle ground with a 3-star. I think I finally found what bothers me about this run. JW seems to be playing with dolls, not with the characters. Characters change status quo from one issue to another very quickly, and often without importance. They don't have a general focus or purpose, just, oh, that would be cool. After all, why give powers to Lois? The Doomsday arc, the best arc of the run, I gotta click on this button to read more, would be cool. Would be cool. Okay, well, here's the thing. What he's getting at is Lois at the end says she doesn't have her powers anymore. I don't have any problem with that. I think we needed to get rid of Lois' powers because I'm sort of like I'm sick of every additional character in a book. The supporting cast all has to have powers now, so I'm in complete disagreement. I can maybe see what he's thinking and maybe alluding to with Mercy with a quick change, but then again, you know, that's something that doesn't have to be a quick change. The way it's written, it could have been something that was building up over time. It did come a little maybe forced, but ultimately I didn't dislike it. Let's talk about Green Arrow number 23. Very positive score with 153 with a 4.2. 153 ratings, 4.2. That's pretty strong. I gave it a 7.2. It's all been leading to this, the final showdown. Yes, its writer is Chris Condon and artist is Montos. Anyway, you will not like this book if you don't have a liberal mindset, probably. Let's be fair, or you're willing to still give it a chance, because we're all dealing with this freshwater community now, a group together that was wronged by rich people is what it is. You know what, though? As I said, as long as it's written well and somewhat balanced, I can get it. I can see where some people could create affordable housing, not tell them that they shouldn't be there because the water and everything's bad. I can actually see this. So this is definitely a great book for Green Arrow fans. It's good characterization and decent art and action in this. So if you're into that, this would be great. I don't see any issue that you would have there. And I honestly, even for somebody that tends to lean quite conservative, I can't find a lot to complain about here. I think it's written well and in character. So see, I think I'm being quite fair. So anybody who was already mad at me because whatever and stuff, I want you to think about that a little bit. Can you do that too? All right, the next one I want to talk about, shifting gears to G.I. Joe, a real American hero, with 165 ratings and a 4.4. Boy, has this book been good. The writer's Joshua Williamson, artist is Tom Riley. I gave this book an 8. Yeah, we have Duke versus Cobra Commander in this issue. Pretty awesome. There's good action, decent art. And then Duke teaches us that we have to be careful and consider where our bullets are going to go when we shoot something of metal. And if you are shooting anything, this is a tip. Always be careful, understanding that ricochets could occur shooting something hard. So when you're shooting Cobra Commander in the face, that helmet was good. The bullet bounces back and causes some damage to good old Duke. He didn't think about that very well. And the last page on this one produces a great surprise. I really think you should be checking out this book. The reviews are high, and they think they all deserve to be. Great book. But you know what? Let's shift gears from a great book to a book that's okay. And that's the Avengers number 25 with 157 ratings with a 3.8. And I gave the book a 7.2. The writer's Jed McKay and artist is Valerio Shiti. Boy, that came out a little careful there, right? We have the rise of the all-new, all-different Masters of Evil in this one. While the Avengers are busy dealing with Doctor Doom, the Masters of Evil take over the Avengers town or city, whatever you want to call it, their base of operations. Yeah. So meanwhile, Sam's questioning if he has what it takes to be an Avenger, which really makes this a cliche story. What happens is he gets injured, so he gets sent back to the Avengers base, if you will. And he's hurt, and he starts dealing with, well, I'm just human. I'm not really a super soldier. But then what happens is the new Masters of Evil take over the Avengers Impossible City. They hack it, and then they invade and take it over. And really, it's up to Sam to defend it on his own. So you know what's going to happen here, and the arc is going to make him feel like, yes, I am a good hero. So it's really cliche. Matter of fact, I'm going to knock my score down to a 7 from a 7.2 because the story is just so cliche. Otherwise, what is it? But I'm going to read a different review that maybe gives it a little bit more praise, so that way we balance it out a little bit. And this is a 4-star review. This issue was really good. I really liked the artwork and the colors for it. The setup for the story was cool, and I like seeing Sam in the spotlight. I think McKay is a good voice for him, even if I don't love him being Captain America. Wow, I love these honest takes. This tie-ins really wiped the floor with the main event issue. I feel confident. You know what? I agree. This is better than the main event. I feel confident saying that McKay has found his footing on Avengers since Blood Hunt. And if you felt like the book wasn't for you initially, I suggest you pick up some of the issues since then. I think that's a reasonable take on this. Let's go with one more. This one's just a 3-star. I'm more interested in the Masters of Evil than the Avengers. Poor Sam talking to the birds is technically a superpower. Never could stand Carol. Nothing like making your teammate feel small or inadequate because she forced him to go to get help medically because he was hurt, which I think in this case was the right call, even though I'm not a huge Carol fan at this point. She was written much better many years ago, which I did like her. Would still love to see Thor take her arrogant butt down a peg. Maybe Mr. I think I meant Mr. Hyde here, will punch her through a wall. After multiple failed books, she gets put on the Avengers. I wish she left instead of Thor. Oof. Okay, I think that's a pretty good counterbalance there, which, some rough thoughts. What are your thoughts on Avengers? Do you wish Carol would get punched through a wall by Hyde, or Thor would have stayed on the team? You know what, though? I do agree. I would rather have seen Thor stay on the team. And we're going to finish it up with one more issue. I know I'm running just a little bit long, but let's talk about The Amazing Spider-Man number 2 with 444 ratings with a 3.7 score that's mostly positive, which I didn't think it was that great. I gave it a mid-7. Yeah, mid-7 here. We have writer Joe Kelly and artist Pepe Larraz. Rhino Rampage happened last issue, and we found out he was cooked up on some kind of particular drugs that he was spiked with. Now Peter Parker gets spiked with the same thing. And here's the thing. A couple things here. I'm not a fan of the art style in this book. What are your thoughts on that? I'd like to know. I just can't get into that art style. Peter in this book is poisoned. And so now he knows he's poisoned. He's been told he needs to take it easy because that poison is messing with his mind and causing him to do potentially bad things with his superpower. So you think he would be responsible enough to realize, I need to sit this out and get this drug out of my system. But no, instead, he decides to go to the prison and research on the issue, putting himself into more trouble and causing more trouble. This was a dumb move from a character that's supposedly so smart. What were you thinking?
The cover was mediocre. By the way, there is some pretty darn good alternate covers, though, for this book. Like the Black Cat one's pretty awesome. It's got ones with Spider-Man, it's pretty good, an MJ one that's pretty good, too, as well. But you know what? Let's look at some other people's thoughts about this book. This one's a 2-star review. Gonna try to do this again. Thank you for the likes with the last one. I think this issue was a bit better than the last one, but still suffers from the same central issue. But we'll see if that first arc exclusive or what. But to say the least, this continues to be brand new day autopilot. Let's start with the positives. The artwork continues to be great. See, I disagree with that. The boss lady is rather pretty, he says. I like the sand speech conceptually. I like exploring that Peter wasn't always perfect. I actually rather like the dynamic between Hobgoblin and Itsy Bitsy. Hobgoblin keeps being really well, to a level I'm impressed by. Once again, I'm reading what's on here, so sometimes it's hard. Low bar, but it's the best he's been written since Axis easily. Itsy Bitsy's new design is really good. There's less moments that feel really off with Spidey by virtue of there being less Spider-Man in this issue and less, well, of Peter's personal life. Well, and see, I get what he's saying. By actually not writing about the main character, it's better? So, how is that a positive? Now to the negatives. As potentially cool as exploring Peter's early status to get the look into his psychology, it just lacks the weight of other attempts that we've seen in the past. And due to how generic it feels. Agreed. I agree there. Peter being angry because he lost his parents and he's now living with a much older generation who gets along with and has interests that are more cerebral than the typical kids his age, but getting along with his older guardians and his interests aren't exactly why he's ostracized by his peers, and that makes him even angrier. That's an interesting psychology of the character's work. Peter is a generic after-school special bad kid who looks at porn and steals beer and talks back to his guardians. Just doesn't feel fitting. And I agree. I think this was really out of character. I'm sorry. Peter was supposed to be a geek, nerdy kind of guy. Is he looking at porn and stealing beer? And that's what we got in this issue. And that's one of the reasons I couldn't go any higher than the score I did. I thought he was written out of character. It kind of embodies brand new dayism of Peter's generic young character first and foremost. Yeah, I get that. I'm not going to continue reading that one. But yeah, it's wow. I mean, how bad can you get? You know what? I think this person deserves it. They wrote a lot. So I'm just read another section here. Peter is generic after school special, as they said there. The Shay thing keeps making Peter look like an insecure child. I agree. Any idea that this is a mystery as a poison that makes you hallucinate is introduced alongside a shady former delinquent friend and a cold boss is just so ridiculous. Another thing that feels supremely evident of the brand new day element of writers is they're in their 50s now, obsessed with the use and usage of Riz. Yeah, Riz. What the heck was that? Felt utterly cringe-inducing, but it's not a shock when Kelly's done this stuff for Spidey prior, like Nazi, please. It's just so simple. I can't speak today. The normal thing could be interesting, but we already had the Peter trust Norman, but but deep down resents him stuff that falls flat. Yeah. And so once again, I think people have some legit complaints with this book. I'm going to try to read a very positive one because I think it's a good thing to, be fair with it. Here we go. I'll read part of this 4-star review. I liked it a lot. The art is gorgeous. The writing is good. I like how Joe Kelly writes Spider-Man. Peter's obviously got some mental troubles right now due to the poisoning. Yeah. Whoops, I hit the wrong button. There we go. Yeah, because he's all mental. But I found that really compelling, exploring Peter's worst fears and giving us some backstory in his relationship with this new Brian guy. So let me ask you, I wonder, this person seems like somebody that maybe hasn't read as much Spider-Man, doesn't have as much back history to me, but hey, I'm happy they enjoy it, even though I think it's a miss. So what's your thoughts on these books this week? Let me know what I should have read. Sorry I ran a little bit long, but I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bless each other. Let's take care of each other. And even if we have disagreements, we can still discuss things and like each other. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and take care. And until next time, keep it brutal.